It was hundreds long course, and we had to chug a 20-ounce Gatorade, and then sprint 100 all out. That's crazy. There's not enough money.
Exactly the same, and that's the appeal behind enhanced games, right? All right, okay. Bryan Lunquist, thanks for coming on. Bryan is a former world record holder, American record holder, first man under 23 in the 50 fly, right? First American man under 23 in the 50 fly. Mm-hmm. And co-host of the Social Kick podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We have a tradition on this podcast where the guest of the previous episode leaves the guest of the future episode a question, not knowing who you're going to be. So Calvin Justice was our last guest.
All right.
And he left you a question, not knowing who you're going to be.
Oh, I love this.
He asks, is there a moment in your life where you could go back and learn from it differently?
Great question, Calvin.
He phrased it as regret. So like, is there some kind of regret that you have that maybe if you think back on it, you might learn from it a little bit differently?
One of the reflections I have on my swimming career, and one of the areas that I observe excellence in today's athletes, I don't think I was quite mature enough. It's one of the areas that I think that there was another level of professionalism that exists and is possible. And I'm 40, and I retired at 27, but I peaked in my mid 20s, as a lot of, athletes do and swimmers do. And I think that there are learnings of how to be more professional, how to be more detail oriented, how to channel the learnings of those details into actionable steps to be better. And I think that I'm much more mindful of that removed from my swimming career and my athletic career. Maybe not as much from my athletic career, because I still like to do athletic stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that I wasn't quite as, even though I tried, I was surrounded by professionals, a lot of them.
When you say professional, define professional. Like, what actions are you taking as a professional? What does that mean to you?
How to eat, how to sleep, how to recover, how to take advantage of media opportunities or brand opportunities, how to learn from a bad practice or a performance that didn't turn out in the way that I wanted it to. Perhaps even micro movements. I was never good at the power rack swimming freestyle. I was good at it doing butterfly, but I think that there are things that I could have learned about stroke technique at a micro level, doing those types of things in training, and been a little bit more inquisitive about how could I modify my technique? How could I change and adapt that to fit my body, to work on some weakness, some imperfection, which we all have in our technique, our stroke, and our approach. It's all an effort to just be better. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're all chasing this infinite tail of potential. And that's what's fun about being an athlete, especially at a high level where those little details matter. But I think that there are things that I experienced that I could have learned from and channeled and been a bit more intentional about. How do I fix that? How do I adjust that? How is that different, what I'm doing, than what the best in the world who are winning the Olympics are doing, who are breaking 21 seconds long course? What's different about them? Mm-hmm. And I just don't think that I approached it with that intentionality. So during that period, I'd love to bring that perspective back to that time when I was at my athletic peak in swimming and just see.
Yeah. That's kind of like what we were talking about on deck the other day, where I was talking about how when you're working with the high level athletes, like the emotional response to a 14.0 versus 14.1 and how different of a reaction that you might get from the athletes. And because I've, worked with so many different personalities now, whenever I feel those emotions come up in myself, like I know how to handle it now. It's kind of the same thing that you're talking about with your technique, just more from a sports psychology perspective, where like, if I get these thoughts in my head of, oh, that wasn't good enough, or I need to do this better, like, hey, chill, it's okay. Like it's not the end of the world. Like, you know how to handle it better because you've seen so much, working with these athletes. I'm kind of fortunate because I'm 31. So like I still have that like athletic potential left, you know, so like I can apply
Rub it in, you know,
these lessons that I've learned from these guys. I can apply it to myself, and like now I'm swimming faster than I ever have, and I'm swimming like 300, 800 yards per practice, you know.
Dude, that's so awesome. You guys are so low volume too, and I knew that I would like talking to you and observing what you guys did in the water, because it's the next evolution of what I think that the group that I was part of, the professional group at Auburn, during those peak years where we had, you know, 2 guys who were under 21 long course in the same group, plus other Olympians and a bunch of Olympic medals, of which I was the worst one.
Which is crazy to say.
Yeah. But, you know, there's, this is where sprinting has gone, and sports and sports science and measurement and, you know, how to get better.
Right.
And it's deviating too, you know, it's, certainly there have been others who have chosen to deviate from the path of, you know, 80s, 90s, progressively going down in volume, progressively learning more about what, you know, elites in other sports are doing, whether that's track and field or other explosive movements, and how to take the best of those and apply them to swimming.
Right.
But so it's cool. It's cool to see the creation of a new idea.
Right. And people are coming back from the sport, you know, they left the sport, hating the sport. Like, you know, those people, like, they can't even smell chlorine. They're like, I can't do it. They like brings back trauma for them. But then those people, they come back, they're swimming 300, 800 yards, and then they're smashing best times, you know? And there's got to be something to that if people are doing it.
Well, you made it fun.
I bet you could get pretty close.
I think I could. I haven't lost it. And besides that, you know, as a professional, I've always wondered, like, at what age does man strength set in? Is it a real thing?
I think so. I definitely haven't hit it yet.
My problem is
I'm waiting.
My problem is that I transformed my body into an endurance machine, and now I'm trying to turn it back.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I went too slow twitch. I've lost explosive power.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to read more about like the importance of explosive power, explosivity for not only high performance, but also for longevity, health span.
That's the one thing I kind of don't like about the sprint training is like, I want to go out and go do a long, slow run, or I want to go out and do jiu-jitsu with Sid for 30 minutes. But then I'm like, my fast twitch gains I'm losing my fast twitch gains, you know? So I'm like, don't do the slow run. I just have to be twitchy. And so that's the one part where I'm like, I want to do all these other activities, go on long hikes and stuff. But I'm like, but I'm going to lose my fast twitch gains. So I better not do that, you know?
So is the 2-hour bike ride I just did bad?
You've lost you're done. You're cooked. Anyways, I think we should tell everyone how this podcast ended up being a thing. Like this wasn't even on the schedule until yesterday.
Yeah.
So Bryan texted me, or you DM me on Instagram saying you're going to be in town. Hey, can I drop in for practice? You came to practice, and then your girlfriend's parents, right, live here in Brea. Yeah. And he punched the address of the studio into his navigation, and it happened to be, what is it?
Yeah,
less than a mile.
5-minute walk from here,
which is crazy. All coincidence.
I could probably throw a football here. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, and I'll take it back a step, actually. So Santo was a guest on our podcast on Social Kick several months ago.
Yeah, I remember. I listened to that episode.
And I had told him at the time, oh, you guys train really close to where my girlfriend is from. And this is around 4th of July, maybe. And so I said, hey, next time I'm in town, I'll ping you and would love to just say hey, or come get in the pool. And so that was actually the impetus for knowing about him training with you guys, and who you were and where you trained. But I didn't realize how close.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The gym and the new facility is. Yeah. So it's awesome.
I was thinking, like, podcasting is such a great way to get to know someone.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's not a lot of opportunities where you would just sit down and just talk, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine, like, I couldn't justify going to a coffee shop and just talking to someone for 2 hours, you know? Like, I would never do that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a terrible person, but
It's funny though. It's funny you say that because you see old men doing it, you know, or like it seems like a thing of older people where they just sit and chit chat. And actually, well, I was thinking about this on my ride today because I was watching a guy rollerblading down by the beach, and you know, rollerblading to me, he had on a hoodie. He would have his headphones on. It was clearly like he was just going out to have an activity. You know, it wasn't athletically minded. It wasn't with an intentionality to get better athletically in some way.
Just
but
leisure.
I find that like leisure activities aren't something that I often do, especially not physically. Like I don't often just go for a walk just to enjoy being outside and going for a walk because my brain is so wired to say I should go for a run.
To do something to elicit some kind of adaptation.
Yeah. Like I used to go on these trail mountain bike rides when I first started working in the bike industry. And the culture is most people like to party on the way down, but they chill on the way up. But I had the aerobic background to bring my swimming to it where I liked climbing. And then everybody would wait up for each other on these bike rides and they'd sit together and chit chat. And I'm like, let's go, like, what are we doing? And so it was so to the point. Then I would need to go for an exercise after I did the mountain bike ride. Because I'm like, we didn't even exercise. What are you guys doing?
That's the elite athlete in you.
But it's like, I don't know that that's necessarily always a good thing. You know?
Do you think you would ever let go of that? You think that's something you can let go of and just go out for a nice walk?
Sure. I think there's a slippery slope to it though, where now I'm okay going to the gym and just doing, a few things, but maybe not doing a cardio aspect of that, that day's focus, which is a little bit counter to the last several years where I've been more focused on endurance training and you need to get something in every day. So I think it's all okay if you're in tune and grounded in whatever your focus is. If I'm just right now, just trying to get healthy, dealing with a couple injuries and small ailments that are not necessarily optimal for me to be able to focus on an athletic goal or do an event or a race or something like that. So right now it's totally fine.
That's where I think like swimming would be better if we operated in seasons. Like if there was a on season and an off season, like other sports do. Cause we swim 365 days a year, but like going back to like me wanting to go on a long run, like I know that would harm my fast twitch gains. So like I don't do that, but like I want to do it. Right. And so what I've been doing in my post college career is like operating in kind of seasons where like if I sign up for a meet, like for example, the world record attempt that we just did, I only really started training for it like 3-4 weeks out. And before that, I was doing, I actually wasn't really training, but I've actually done that for every meet I've swam at post college. Like I sign up for a meet and I just kind of do whatever I want. I do jiu-jitsu. I go run. The lifts like don't even make sense. And then once we get closer, once I'm feeling like 6 weeks out, okay, maybe I should start training a little bit harder. Maybe I should start working on my 50 free technique. Then I'll start going hard. And then I actually swim like decently fast doing that. And I feel like if the swimming, I don't know if this would work for the longer distance people, but certainly for like the sprint freestyle, I think it works well where if you just operate in seasons and then in the off season, you do other things. Cause it is hard to be locked in and like constantly focusing on your 50 free technique for 365 days of the year.
Totally. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I experienced the same thing when I was focused on endurance events. So in the last several years, one of my life goals was I've always wanted to run a sub 3-hour marathon. I always wanted to do some triathlon. And then once I did my first triathlon, I said, I want to do the world championships in Kona as an amateur. And it's possible that if I had tried it at a different era or age, or maybe right on the heels of my swimming career, that there's like, a really slow, low end pro that I could have gotten a pro card in triathlon. But so then I was in this period of transforming my body to do those types of things. But anyway, I was doing like 16-week cycles to build. And I always found in that last month, preparing for the event, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out, that I was just mentally kind of burned. You're getting into the really longest runs and most important quality and quantity sessions at that point. And I was just tired of going out to run 18, 19 miles, And I don't think that that's because of that distance or that one workout, that one like, important session, being as daunting, I think it was because I had just been like kind of mentally tired of the training up to that point. So I think there is a lot of value in setting those seasons and being focused for a period of time and then taking a break from it physically and mentally.
Right. I think it was born out of club swimming. In order for the club to make money, you have to be operating, right? I really think this is where it comes from. Because like let's say you're going to operate in seasons, and the club is shut down for 6 months, or let's say 6 months out of the year. Like, how's the coach going to make money? And so I think that the business model affected how, and I actually think the 2-hour practice and swimming 7,000 yards, like I think that's also part of the business model influencing the actual swimming part. Because like, you don't, like the parents, if they're making the effort to come out and drop their kid off and they want like a babysitter for the day, and let's say deep down inside you actually just want like a 30-minute like easy practice, but if the parent took all that effort to bring my kid to practice and they were only there for 30 minutes and then they got out, they're gonna be like, what the heck what am I paying for? So then I think the 2-hour practice was born, and what are we gonna do for 2 hours, right? I'm just gonna make him swim for 7,000 because it's easy to do that than swim 2,000 yards and coach them for 2 hours. You know what I mean?
How has that influenced the schedule that you guys operate with your pros today?
I mean, we swim as much as we need to. So like today, like, cause we had that hard session yesterday, I think today's practice was 30 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. And some people, like Calvin drives like an hour to get to us. So I kind of feel bad, but like, that's what I believed we needed today. So we only, like, I'm not going to make them swim 2 hours cause I feel like, because Calvin drove an hour, I'm going to make him swim 2 hours. No, like I think his physiology just needs 30 minutes today. So we just did 30 minutes and got out, and then tomorrow we'll go hard again.
Yeah. And do you only do once a days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Singles. Yeah. And I'm kind of toying with the idea of swimming like 3 times per week. I'm going to experiment with it in January.
How important does that the daily touch of the water matter, especially at an elite level?
I don't think it matters that much. Like you're talking about the feel of the water, right?
Yes, the feel of the water. And also I wonder if it changes with maturity or skill level.
I think the higher your skill level is, I think it depends on the person. I think some people benefit more if they touch the water every day. And I think some people can get away without touching the water every day. So for example, like Calvin, he took a hiatus from his swimming career and he's learning the 50 freestyle stroke, and so like in order to learn, you need repetition. So I think for him, like swimming 6 times from April to now was actually a good thing because it gave him ample opportunity to develop the skill of the 50 free. Because I think the 50 freestyle stroke is a skill and you have to practice. It's completely different from, going out and swimming easy aerobic to 50 free. It's like a completely different stroke.
Totally.
And so I think like in Calvin's example, like he had to put that volume in and learn that. Santo, on the other hand, like I think he that stroke, like he does very well. And so I think he can get away with swimming probably 3 to 4 times and then using the other days to supplement with gym work or whatever. And I think like Cam does this very well is in the off season, he'll swim like 3 times a week and then gym like three or 4 times per week. And he uses that opportunity to really get strong. Cause I think it's hard to swim hard and go to the gym and train really hard at the same time. Like those two stimuluses compete with each other. And so I think what he kind of showed us is like, you can separate those two things, go hard in the gym for a season, swim a little bit just to kind of maintain. And then as you get closer to the meet, then you can kind of drop the gym work and then start swimming more. So I think I've got to thank Cam for kind of, because people are afraid to go from swimming 10 sessions to 3 sessions a week. Like that's scary. Like it might not work, but he showed us like, yes, it can work. So like he was the first guy to prove to everyone and make sure it's not scary to do. So I'm going to kind of experiment with that in January.
Yeah. I like that experimentation and also customization, of course. And I think that's also where the top end professional athletes, the ones who are really good, really know themselves. And I always enjoy asking athletes how well they know themselves and what the relationship then is between their coach or their coaches and their support staff. Because to really, there's a lot of athletes who do really well by just buying into the program and letting the coach tow them along to success. But then there's also a lot who know what they need. And if you're going to train in a small group or more independently, and I think that there's something to be said about being in tune with what your own needs are and bringing an opinion to the table too. Like that's the listening, the internal listening that has to take place, that I think the best ones are really good at knowing what they need, but also then vocalizing that and saying, this is what I need you to build into my program.
I think Santo's one of the best in the world at that. Like intuitively understanding what he needs. He's really good at that. And I've learned a lot from him just from the way he speaks about swimming.
We were looking at his breakout yesterday on the film, and he went fast on that effort. It was I don't know. I think he may have had an effort after I left, but regardless, they did a 50 speed, 50 stroke
25,
effort. Right. And we were watching the breakout and talking about how to not get stuck through the breakout. And as we were watching the video, I was just rolling back through slow-mo. We had a couple different angles on it, and I was just showing him what I noticed and the point at which he started to move into the resistance of the surface of the water rather than push through it or come above it. And the way that he channeled that feedback, he was watching the video and intuitively going, okay, so I need to here. And he kept on saying that a few different times as, got it. So that means that I need to do here and here. And I was just looking at the video, so I don't know what motion he was making, but he was processing the learnings and applying it, in his mental approach.
He's one of the best in the world at that. It's crazy. And I actually had a hard time when I first started working with him, because he would say things like we would watch the video together and he's like, look at that. And I'm like, look at what? Like, look at that right there. I'm like, see that? I'm like, no, I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. Now I've kind of picked up on what he's talking about, because you kind of have to read between the lines of what he's saying. But he has all these things of, like, Sid's experienced this firsthand, like, because Casanto coaches Sid a little bit too, helping Sid with his stroke. And he has all these things that he made me understand swimming like way differently. Like the way he thinks about swimming is not the same as other people. And it's another viewpoint on swimming that I don't think I've ever had, if that makes sense.
Say more.
So for example, like the breakout, right? How he's talking about getting on top. Like I didn't really understand the concept of getting on top of the water and then staying on top of the water. Like I understood it conceptually. Like, yeah, people say stay on top of the water, but I didn't really know what he was talking about. But what he's talking about is like applying pressure onto the water so that your body position stays up and never falls. And with the breakout, what he's talking about is like sometimes if he comes up at an angle like this, he can get on top, but then it's harder to stay on top. Like he has to fight to be there. But if he does this motion with his hand. He says, if I go like this, then it's easy to stay on top and he can just stay on top. And like, this sounds so great. Like, I feel like I'm not even making sense right now, but I think you're understanding what I'm
totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm glad. But like the little things like this, I never really understood. And even though I've been swimming for 20 something years, like I didn't really understand that until I started talking to him. But now I'm starting to pick up on what he's talking about. So it's crazy, like the things that you can learn from people who are extremely intuitive like this.
Yeah. Cesar Cielo was the same way too.
Was he?
By the way.
I wanted to ask you about Cesar and Fred.
Yeah. Well, Cesar was relentless with the details in that way. And he could observe a video. I mean, it was TiVo at the time, right? We had the TVs, up and the cameras up. And so, really good at being able to learn from the visual feedback or take feedback and then process that into a learning, or just take his own observation, even if it
Was
wasn't
he good
from
at
watching
other people too?
something. I don't know that I've got a. He did. Yes, but I think that he didn't vocalize his learnings as much from other people, but he did watch other people a lot. He was aware of not only performances, but what they did really well. If they moved really well underwater, if they got off the block well, if they, if there was some intuitive or innovative technique. Caesar was good at noticing those types of things. I don't know. I think he was also good at learning what mattered to him and what didn't matter for him and how he needed to move through the water. But certainly very good at taking whatever insight or feedback or observation and then saying, okay, I can channel that into an improvement and make a micro adjustment and then go do it.
Right.
A lot of times in the 15-meter pool. So
yeah, a lot of people can't do it. Like you tell them the cue and they just can't put it together. But some people, you tell them a little thing and they're able to feel that. Or off the bat. Yes,
agreed. And also we talked about the delta between 14.0 and 14.1 on the mental psychology. But then there's one way to approach that, which is, I'm starting to feel flat. Or, if you do a lot of sprint workout, then you're generating fatigue and you're building lactic acid, and trying to be explosive on the later repetitions is more difficult. So there's a lot of times I would chalk it up to that. If I'm speaking as myself as an athlete, I would say, I'm just getting like a little bit flat. My legs are flopping a bit. I'm not as high.
When you say flat, you mean like your nervous system feels off, right?
Less explosive, less poppy. And but that's one way to think about it. The other way is, okay, but what actually happened? Is that true? Or was that in my head that I feel a certain way? And I think that sometimes it's not always clear for an athlete which one it actually is that led to the result. But that's also why it's an art and not just a science.
Not just a science. What I think is cool is like when you've been sprinting for so long, like I can, before I even get in the pool, I can kind of like tell if my nervous system is gonna fire quickly that day or not.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to that? Like you can kind of feel in your hands, like you can kind of like jump around and like, oh, nervous system is good today. Like there's all these like tracking tools for CNS fatigue, and you can do like a CNS tap test, and they have like these wave brain readers thingies that I don't even know. But like you can kind of intuitively, if you get intuitive enough with your own body, you can feel like, okay, CNS is on today. CNS is weird today. Did you ever get to that?
No. The only thing that I knew was helpful, or that was like my physical signal, was my lower legs. If my lower legs felt flushed out and light, then I knew I was going to be fast. It didn't even have anything to do with my upper body, but for some reason that was like the indicator of explosiveness. And I was always somebody who swam slow in season, though. I got buried in the gym.
Your legs just always felt heavy.
Yeah, I just felt heavy. Everything felt heavy. I was slow, and then I was able to put it together, on a 10-day to 14-day taper, and then totally different swimmer.
Yeah.
But part of that indication was, legs feeling fresh.
Right. Isn't that interesting? Everybody has like a little different thing to track their own CNS fatigue. Like for you, it was your legs. Like for me, I could feel it in my hands and arms.
Huh.
I can kind of like twitch quickly.
Yeah.
For Santo, it's like how connected he feels. Calvin, it's like if you can feel the pull. Like everyone has a little bit different thing on how they can tell if it's going to be a good day or not. I think that's so interesting.
I could also tell in the warm-up, because I did a drill that was always really important for me to feel the water. And I was doing underwater, I wouldn't even call it dolphin kicking, but I was essentially like a broken streamline with my hands out, doing a dolphin motion underwater, just sculling through the water. And I would do maybe a couple 25s of that, maybe a couple 15 meters of that, just feeling the water underneath. There was something about that motion that sort of set, I don't know if it set the nervous system or what, but it set my feel for the water to then be able to do what you're talking about, Santo, like getting on top of the water.
So that was your thing that you
That
did
was that
every
motion.
warm-up. Was it a mobility thing or like a nervous system thing?
I think it was a nervous system thing.
Just like for your butterfly, like the catch and
Just to
stuff.
feel the top of the catch. So just that little, and I did it for freestyle too.
You're doing this underwater or on the surface?
Underwater.
Fins?
No.
Just body, nice and slow.
Yep.
Interesting. Huh. Talk to me about training at Auburn.
I was there through an evolution of maybe sort of an early stage of high-end sprinting and a sprint-focused philosophy, which started with Brett showing up at Auburn. So I spanned the coaching staff of, I was Marsh's last class at Auburn.
Was Richard Quick there? Or?
Richard came at the end of that. So
Okay.
Marsh left in 2007. That was my senior year. He went to start Team Elite at Mac in Charlotte. And then I actually swam for Dave Durden for my first 2 years there. So the two of them recruited me. Durden was the sprint coach primarily during my freshman and sophomore year. And then once Durden left after my sophomore year, went to Maryland before he went to Cal. Marsh was there through the end, and then Richard Quick came. Richard was there for a couple of years before he died. And then, at some point when I think it was actually before David left, Brett had come back to finish his degree, and he was just helping the team out by working with the sprint group in the summer, and we all swam great, and it was fun. And
So you had a complete, like you went from the long distance stuff to more sprint stuff as you went along?
The whole team was doing test sets together, 3/800s, the relentless, long, high volume, old school Christmas training stuff that's, 8,000 meter, 10,000 meter workouts,
Where Fred
and I swam up
Caesar
to the
doing this?
200. So, yeah. And sometimes Fred wasn't always there in the fall. He was one of those that could show up in the spring semesters.
He was good enough to where that was okay.
Oh, those are the tactics, right? But yeah, I mean, it was the whole team that was doing that kind of stuff. I think by the time Caesar got there, it was 2006 and then into 7. Yeah, there were some athletes during that time that they'd get some special treatment, but you had to be one of those in order to do anything different.
Do you have any sets that you can remember from that time that were memorable?
So I'm not great at remembering sets, but I will say the hardest set that I've ever done is 125s at 100 pace. And
On?
the interval varied, and so they weren't like Michael Andrew, USRPT, 25 seconds, but we would do them somewhere between 30 seconds or even up to a minute. But still 100 efforts at true 100 pace, and you're trying to,
I don't know if it would be true 100 pace.
well, right. I mean, and at that time I was
100 pace, end of 500 pace.
trying to go 10 lows, get short course yards to a hand touch.
Yeah.
And, that was the hardest thing that I've done. But then and then really, honestly, the first viral swim video was the Gatorade set.
What was that again? It was hundreds?
It was hundreds long course, and we had to chug a 20-ounce Gatorade and then, sprint 100 all out and then just do it until you threw up.
Were you in that video?
Yeah, there were 4 of us. So, Garrett McCaffrey, when he was doing, flow swim, he was traveling around the country doing, the first one really doing that. He came to town. We knew he was coming to town. And so, Brett was texting me saying, hey, what should we do? Send me the craziest drills that you would never, ever do. And so, I thought we were going to show up to the pool and just do some crazy drills, which we did. There was a part 1 of that video. And then after that, and I was right after a world record. So I went to Short Course Worlds, was on the team there, broke a world record, and then, took a couple weeks off. But it was 2008, it was the Olympic year, so I wasn't, getting super out of shape, but I hadn't been in training shape. So it was my first week back, and I just ate a big sub sandwich for lunch, and then because I thought we were going to do just drills. It was supposed to be an easy day, but it was April or something. It was off season kind of timing, and so I showed up at the pool, and then it turns out we weren't only going to do drills, we were also going to sprint all out. But what I will say is the main takeaway from that era and that group that we had was just being ready to do anything. And it didn't matter about like how much warm up you had or like what you were expecting. You had to be ready for anything. And that meant that we did a lot of things on the mental side to test us. We did cold turkey 200s kick all out to start practice, where you just didn't expect that. And then someone asked something of you and you had to go, okay, that's the task now. And I'm ready for that task. And it was just a lot of that, a lot of creativity. It changed every day. And I didn't keep a log, but the main thing was that you just had to be ready for anything.
I think that's so valuable. So valuable. Cause like in my college career, I got to this place where like I had a very specific warm up I had to do. And if I didn't do that, I wasn't going to swim fast. I was very, very mentally rigid. But then you have situations where you can't do your warm up and you have to be ready for that. And the other thing is like, I found that going to meets, it was so stressful because I was like, oh, I have to do all these things before I can finally race. And just that stress, I think, added to me not performing as well because I had to do all these things. But if you were to experiment with like just a dryland warm up one day or just do a 200 free and then go race or, you know, whatever, and you're so flexible that it doesn't really matter, then you can go into the meet like a little bit more open and a little bit more free to do whatever you want. Like, yeah, maybe you have principles of like what you want to hit. Maybe you want to get there 2 hours before and you want to do some kind of dryland warm up. Like, yeah, you can have principles, but I think if you can just be fluid and okay with whatever happens, then you're going to be I think that's where mental toughness comes from. Not from doing 10,000 meters of butterfly. I don't think that builds mental toughness. I think mental toughness comes from being able to handle whatever task that is thrown your way, you know, and I think you can train that by doing things like what you're doing.
I agree. And I think we observed it in your group yesterday too, because Calvin did a start where it wasn't his optimal setup. And afterward, he said he intentionally left, you know, his toe wasn't aligned like fully over the front of the block.
Yeah.
And so you could, in practice, just reset. And you could have sent him and he would have just paused and not gone and said, hey, send me again. But instead he chose to go because he said on race day, maybe the setup's not optimal and I have to go. I don't have that choice.
Yeah.
And I think that's the right mentality to have is, I'm sorry, you don't get other opportunities. There's only one opportunity on race day. So you can simulate it as best you can, but you know, you have to be able to just, execute in that moment.
Yeah. So for context, yesterday when we were doing a 25 all out, and Calvin went to go take his mark and his foot wasn't set up right. But instead of saying, wait, he just went with it because he was like, if I'm at the meet and I accidentally set my foot wrong, I have to do it anyways. I think that's where mental toughness is. Talk to me about Fred and Caesar and how they operated and trained. I'm very curious on that.
Yeah.
What was that era like, the golden age of sprinting at Auburn?
Very competitive environment at practice, but two very different emotional guys. Like Fred was a real good team guy, and positive, encouraging teammate who was very good in the gym, really strong with his like chest and arms. Also good with like full body movements, but particularly that he was like really good at, you know, like a narrow bench press and just had really strong arms. Caesar, I think was like the best all around at like, being relentless with the feedback, as I mentioned before, but, he was like generally strong in the gym too. I think we all were, but from a physical standpoint, the thing that I found that Caesar was the best at is like, he was always the guy hanging out at the pool going, I'm going to do one more, 'cause the one that I just did wasn't perfect. And and he hated losing. They both hated losing, but I think if you were to look back at their careers, the one who won more, got their hand on the wall first more, was Caesar. And he had that killer instinct. And that showed up on a daily basis, but it was also, and I mentioned this to you when there was, a moment during the workout yesterday where you had to coach, the mental side of the athlete. And I mentioned like Caesar would cry on deck. He would be emotional about his performance. And sometimes it was because he didn't want to do whatever we were doing. But from a team perspective, for those of us who are really bought in to the program, if you weren't doing what everybody else was doing, or you were upset about it or mad about it, or like pouted and got out of the pool and did your own thing, then that was like a screw you to everybody else. But he kind of knew that he didn't need that. He didn't need whatever workout we were doing sometimes. And so I think there was like this conflict of a level of athlete, a high performing athlete who knew what he needed. And that wasn't it, whatever we were doing, or he disagreed strongly, but it was too big of a squad at that time to be able to give that feedback. Or even when we had a smaller squad, he would be very vocal about what was working and what wasn't working for him. I observed Fred to be just more bought into the actual program, but also sometimes Fred wasn't with us. Sometimes he would be, training with, back home in France, and then he would come back and like kind of programmatize the time that he spent with the group. And I know that coaches were in touch while they were away, but so it wasn't, and I think that's probably for the best when you have two of the best. They were the two best, sprinters in the world at the time. Of course, you had other guys like Eamon Sullivan and Elaine Bernard, who were, also very good, Emery Laveau. But still, you had the two guys that have ever been, under 21 long course in the same group. So
do you remember like the specifics of what the training structure looked like at the time?
Yeah, I mean, we were generally like 3 days in the gym a week. Usually, at that time, we started to get in away from the doubles and into the singles when we formed the true pro group in like 2009, 8 into 9. College team was still on the regular, 3 days a week in the morning, every afternoon, Saturday too. The pro group, then we evolved into once a day in the pool, still 3 to maybe 4 lifts a week. And then, there were days that I don't know if we only spent 30 minutes in the water, but we'd probably have 2 to 3 quality workouts a week. And then, the ones in between are touching the water. A lot of power. And I really liked that one of the things that we liked doing were power workouts, that we'd call them, which was straight from the gym into the pool, all intensity, usually all resisted, for somewhere between 16 to 24 efforts. But those efforts might be with a t-shirt on or with various types of equipment.
Buckets.
Yeah, buckets. We had power racks at the time with weight on them.
That goes to
I like that old
meters.
School rack. Yeah, not quite. Usually 12 and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the shorter ones. At the time, we didn't have the full 25. So it was just like, but you maxed it out. So you'd put 100 pounds on it. And just, that was the thing, was try to go as fast as you could with 100 pounds.
And when you go 16 to 24 efforts, are you taking as much rest as you want in between, or?
No, it's more about the competition, less so about the individual performance. So yeah, maybe some of them were like 30 seconds rest, something like that. It might be a little bit more than that, like 30 seconds rest, but it was about racing more than anything, I think. So
you would time the efforts and then say, can you beat that?
Actually, those days were all about racing, no time.
Oh, you're literally going head to head.
And they'd call the winner.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
But, so yeah, a lot of racing. And then there were other days, of course, that we, did a lot of 15 meters off the block, or we would do, 8 times, a 75 all out from the block on 4 to 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of those types of things. And also a lot of back in 50 work for the 100. So, this tried and true method of getting ready for the 100 is first 25, a broken 100, but it's 25 off the block, get a head time to the 25, simulated, 95%, like you're going out the first 25 in the 100, cruise it to the wall, maybe 10 seconds rest, and then push a 50 back end. And we did that kind of stuff all the time.
That's long course that you're talking about.
Long course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was your best event? 50 fly?
Turned out to be the 50 fly, which I discovered late and wasn't a real event at the time.
Unfortunately.
It was from a world championship perspective, but from it obviously wasn't in the Olympics at the time. And then, still USA Swimming has to figure out how to prioritize and give the 50s the same level of importance that I think they deserve, which unfortunately we're still not there yet. World Aquatics as well. people will want to see it. I hope that this evolution gets us closer to it. But yeah, so at the time, my kind of like that American record that I set was in 2009 after the World Championship trials. So that was my best year, finishing 4th at the World Championship trials in the 50 free. I went 21.7. It took 21.4 to make the A team. And then I ended up, top 15 in the world that year in the 50 free. But then my time trial to 50 fly before that, it wasn't an official event at the trials meet. So then when I didn't make the World Championship team, I went the next week and was like, hey, that 50 fly was pretty good. And 23.18 that Ian Crocker had done, like, I think I can beat that. I think I had gone like 23.3 in the like stinger that I'd done in the time trial. Yeah. So then I just went to Knoxville the next week and did a 50 fly and went 22.9, and then, watched, unfortunately, I didn't make the team. It is what it is. But, a few weeks later in Rome at the World Championships, the fastest American was 23.9, and it took 22.9 to get a bronze medal. And so, I was sitting there going, man,
must have been hard.
Like, I know that I was the fastest American in the 50 fly that year by a lot, and I didn't have a chance to go and represent my country there. And it just is what it is. But,
right.
But something about butterfly, and I don't really know why, is I was able to channel the power. I was good on the power rack and fly. I got the 50 fly stroke. Yesterday, I was talking with Santo after they did that broken 100 with a 100 butterfly stroke. And then you had people doing, 50 fly stroke, and we were just talking about the differences between those two things, and they're completely different strokes. The 50 freestyle stroke is different than the 100 freestyle stroke. The same is true in butterfly. It's just different. And I just didn't have a lot of reps or opportunities to practice that stroke. I found it late, and then, I retired after an Olympic year where the 50s of stroke didn't matter. So there's a little bit of that in me that, like, I love the 50 butterfly.
Talk to me about the 50 fly stroke, because I'm still trying to figure it out as an athlete and coach.
Yeah.
Well, what is the primary difference between the 50 fly and 100 fly stroke?
There are a couple. The first is that I think in 100 fly, there's like a collapsing of the shoulders into like letting go of the water, almost a glide. There's no glide in the 50 fly stroke. There's no collapse of the shoulders down. They stay up, and you're on top of the water the whole time. So it's the same way that we were talking about being on top of the water in the 50 freestyle happens in butterfly. So it's high hips and then never letting you dip below the surface of the water. You're staying on top of the water. And then it's also really flat. I think the best 50 butterflyers, you have some guys that have some undulation, like, if you look at Ponte today, or even Nicholas Santos, who I trained with some during that same era, they're really powerful kickers with really powerful hips. And they might be able to get away with a little bit more hip undulation, but they're still staying on top of the water where the arms are almost never straight. They're bent elbow. They're like ready for the catch, and there's no extension. But when you watch, like, either whether it's Caleb or, Josh Liendo, even in 100 butterfly, whether short course meters or if it's long course, they're full extension at some points.
Mm-hmm. So I'm struggling with, when you're talking about immediate catch, right? Mm-hmm. What I'm struggling with personally is when I do that, I catch a lot of bubbles because I'm just trying to go right into it, going right into the catch.
Okay.
I smack the water, and then there's a lot of air, so I actually don't catch water until I'm down here. And so to combat that, what I started messing with is like, there's a moment before I actually start the catch. Am I doing that wrong?
You're doing that like entry into the water to try to
like
keep
that.
From?
No, it's a very small moment. I'm kind of waiting like a split second, and then I start the catch.
I think that there might be like a very small moment there where you're trying to get that hand placement, but I just think there's it's wasted time if you're not propelling yourself forward. So
how can you start the catch without the bubbles? Is there a way, or you just do it?
I think you push through some of that like disturbance of the water.
Okay, maybe it's my entry. Maybe I'm attacking it too aggressively. Maybe I need to be more pretty with it.
You know, I mean, everybody's different with the way that they feel the water. So I think that's what's really fun about swimming is like, there's no formula.
Where are you thinking, where are you putting all the effort when you swim a 50 butterfly? Is it in your arms or your legs?
Middle of the stroke, arms here. Yeah.
So here to here is where you're thinking about.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about your legs. Because I've heard other people talk about like they're trying to kick in a 50 butterfly. They're trying to kick as hard as they can.
So yes, but there's all. So that's where the effort is. And if to answer that question, I think the effort is primarily in that middle of the stroke where the catch is, right? However, yes, the 50 stroke is all about keeping the hips high. There's no glide or like really, I don't know what you call this, where it's like, you know, you're arching your back.
Yeah.
I don't have like a ton of that pelvic tilt in a 50 butterfly stroke. It's almost like the same freestyle mentality where I'm sucking my belly button into my spine. I'm trying to keep the hips as high as they possibly can. Like I want my butt to feel like it's out of the water.
So is there any mental effort going towards your legs as you're racing?
Only in the first 15 meters.
And then you just kind of forget about your legs.
Only the hips. After that, the legs don't. I'm not thinking about the legs at all.
You're thinking about the hips.
Hips.
What are you thinking about? Your hips. Keeping it tucked under.
Man, this is fun. I haven't thought about these types of things.
Can I get in a pool? Can I try this out?
You know, this is why I would not be a good coach, and that's why I don't coach. Is I think that it is very much of in the water. I can tell you more. But outside of the water, being able to observe others isn't necessarily like the strength that I've always had. I do like technical details, but like the full scope of writing a program for a season is not something that I'd be great at. But I think that when it comes to, you know, answering a question about what the hips are doing, I think it's a quick kick, but I just don't want the hips to collapse and to sink in the water. That's really the only thought. Yeah.
But only for the 50 fly.
Only for the 50 fly.
Because 100 fly, I feel like you can get away with that.
I feel like I have to for 100 fly.
Right.
Because I can't replicate the 50 stroke for the whole 100 fly.
Right.
Yeah. And yes, most of the best 100 butterflyers do have some of that hip collapse. It's a much more, if you were to like plot the undulation on a graph, the amplitude of a 100 butterfly stroke is greater.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Than it is than a 50 is.
And the 200 is even greater than that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one other thought too about like how to think about the 50 fly stroke to me is, and also further to the point about how I don't really focus on the legs, is I think you learn and should be able to do the arms of a 50 butterfly stroke while kicking freestyle legs. It doesn't change.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the same stroke with your arms. You add some butterfly kick to it because you have to.
Yeah.
But you should be able to do it exactly the same. I think that's how it felt to me.
And that makes sense because when you're doing flutter kick, you're going to be way flatter than if you were to be dolphin kicking.
Yeah. And the upper body part of that stroke is very flat.
That's interesting. I guess that's a good, I haven't used that drill in a while, but I'm going to bring it back into my arsenal. Thank you.
Try it. Yeah.
I'm going to try
Maybe with fins first, but
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so interesting that you only think about your arms. Cause I've asked multiple people about this, where they're thinking about where their effort is. I think I don't want to butcher this, but I think Joao said he only thinks about his legs. And I think Zenwei, do you know Zenwei? Zenwei Tiong, he's the Singapore national record holder in the 50 butterfly. Sorry, Zen, if I messed this up, but I think he said he also only thinks about his legs. So it's interesting. Everyone thinks about the stroke differently, but it probably has to do with your anatomy and what your strengths are. And that's what helps you swim faster, is by leveraging whatever strengths that you have. And your strength probably was your upper body.
Yeah. Good at those types of lat pull downs. But not good at freestyle. There was something about the butterfly motion that in a 50 I was good at, but don't get me wrong, like,
Yeah, you were 21.7.
I still went 21.7, but like,
oh, my freestyle wasn't so good. I went 21.7.
But there's a big what if I compare to the other like guys that we had in that group, Matt Target, another like great 50 butterflyer, so much power in the arms there. Not as good of a kicker, but super powerful in the arms. But like, if I were to compare how fast those guys could get to 12.5 or max out a power rack with 100 pounds on it, to me, swimming freestyle was almost a half-second difference. We're talking like 5'1" to 5'5", 5'6" is what I could do. But for butterfly, I could do it at about the same speed as they could. And so, I think Target was probably the best at that. But and I don't know why. And that's, again, another thing that I'd love to take back as, learn reflections later as to what was it that was different about my 50 freestyle stroke that I was maybe losing pressure on the water, where in a butterfly motion, I could hold on to it. But in freestyle, I don't know why I couldn't. So, and there are always like little stroke nuances that are issues or, where there's opportunity for improvement. And mine just happened to be in freestyle. I know there was still some there that I never quite figured out.
Interesting. I'm going to test out a theory live right now. Not actually test out, but I'm going to pick your brain and see what you think. So I've been thinking about that whole staying on top of the water concept, right? And I talked to Sid about this the other day. I think the way people stay on top of the water is by applying as much pressure onto the water as hard and as fast as possible. So for example, let's say not the swimming stroke. You're in water, right? You take your hand like this and you go like this. It doesn't take a lot of force for your muscles to do this, right? But if I go like that inside the water, it requires a lot more force on my muscles because the force and velocity on land and water, they have an inverse relationship. So like when you're squatting on land, if you have a heavy load, it goes slow. So it's high force, low velocity. In the water, it's high force, high velocity, right? So it's opposite. And so I think in order for your arm to move, am I saying this right? Hold on. In order for your arm to be still in position, and that whole concept of like you put your hand here and then your body moves around. Have you ever heard that? Like you anchor and then you go around it. People are doing that by actually just applying as much pressure onto the water as possible. Their hand gets stuck and then their body stays on top and moves around their hand because they apply so much pressure onto the water. Does that make sense? Okay, I might be butchering this because I've
never known if that was actually true though. I love the analogy that I always heard was, it should feel like there's a fixed rope underwater and you're just reaching it, grabbing the rope and pulling yourself forward, and then pulling that rope and grabbing it again. And again, this like the analogy is that the rope is totally fixed. So you would just be like climbing, pulling it like this.
It says rungs of ladder.
Yeah. Same.
But okay, so like the rung of ladder and the rope, it's fixed, right?
Yeah.
But it's only fixed because you apply so much water on it. Like when you're doing the distance stroke, the rungs of ladder, it's not very still. It's not as still as when you're sprinting as hard as you can. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. But what I'm saying to you is in the ladder or the rope analogy, we're imagining that when you put a hand in water, that it stays in a fixed position while it's propelling your body over it. And I don't know if that's the case, and I don't think it is. I think there's still some slippage. So it's propelling you, but does that make sense that your hand is still moving this way rather than you holding the water and moving my entire body past it?
I think that's just a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it's not actually occurring.
Right.
Yeah.
But the end goal is that you can do that, right? Isn't that what we're trying to get better at?
Right.
Is, you plant your hand in the water and catch, and you can move your body past and over that anchor that you've set with as minimal resistance and, loss of propulsion as possible.
Yeah. I think I need to write about this. I think whenever I write, I'm literally just working it out in my head right now. So I think I might have completely butchered it, but maybe someone smarter than me can tell me what I'm talking about.
But the difficulty in moving really quickly through the water, even if you're thinking about how to do that really well, is, you have to be able to do it with like 95% effort. Because if you put every bit of force that you possibly can into it, I was watching one of the recent videos you guys put on YouTube about the max strength testing for various different movements, and that, like, the amount of strain and grit, and I don't know how to describe it, like, you're kind of doing that to the detriment of technique. But in swimming, you can't do that. You can't go to like max effort, and you can't force it. And so that's what makes it really hard to do, because you do want to plant that anchor and set it and be really strong about it so that you can move as much water as possible or move your body past it. But you have to do so with as minimal disruption of the water as you can. You can't force it, or else.
Finesse.
Yeah.
You have to finesse it.
Right.
Yeah. Talk to me about the world record.
So I was on a world record with Ryan Lunquist, Nathan Adrian, and an old college teammate of mine, Doug Van Wee. And we broke the 4x100 freestyle short course meter world record. It was a very gettable world record, if I'm being honest. It's way faster now. We had suits on our side. This was pre-2009 suits, so we did have Speedo lasers. But I remember I swam this meet in Florida, where in like a month before we went to Manchester to do the short course worlds, and Lochte was there, and I swam 100 freestyle against him, and I had only gone under 50 a couple times, so we were both 49s on the 100 free, and I remember going, "Oh, hey man, like, I think we should be able to break this world record," and he said, "Yeah, let's go do it," and then. This was like kind of the beginning of Nathan Adrian becoming who he was. He was in college, maybe even in college. I don't think he was at the time. He was at the race club with Gary Hall.
Oh, wow.
At that time. I think he had taken like a gap year. Maybe he had swam 1 year at Cal and then went back to the race club to get ready for the 08 trials. And so Nathan won the world championship that year in the short course and the 100 freestyle. And that was like, oh man, this guy's going to be really legit. But so Nathan and I both went like 46 mids on that relay, and then I think he went faster individually to win the world title. But still, world record was on the books. I got a plaque to prove it. It was a cool moment. We got what do they give you at the time for world records? Like, actually, I don't think the money's gone up. I think it's
10 grand.
It was 20 for the relay, and so we got $5,000 each. But that was in 2008, and that money hasn't changed.
Inflation.
Why is it not, 50 at least?
Yeah, they got to adjust for inflation.
It just makes no sense to me. There's not enough money. Well, it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know about corruption in World Aquatics or wherever, but I know that it's happened in the past, and I have questions about their budget and where all the money is going, and whether or not it's a fair allocation to all the athletes. But that said, that's crazy. There's not enough money.
Exactly the same, and that's the appeal behind enhanced games, right?
Yeah.
And you've talked to Brett about this. But
yeah.
Like I have sympathy for the people who choose to do it. Like all these people are like bagging on why did you join the enhanced, whatever. But like you make $1 million.
Yeah.
Right?
How could you
compared to it's not even adjusted for inflation. It's still 20 grand for a world record.
Yeah. And, I'm sad for the sport in some ways that somebody like, Cam loses his primary competitor, right?
Right.
Like Ben Proud, was, and then we'll have this other guy, Jacob Mills on our podcast soon, who is was number 2 or, just outside number 2 to Ben Proud. So it creates opportunities for somebody like him. So it's not all bad, but I think that's the only thing that I'm bummed about is, if it takes away some racing opportunities,
Right.
you don't get to see the best guy in the world race the best guy in the world. It's the same argument for live golf. But on the positive side, and with the same live golf analogy, they made a lot of money. And so these guys just said, listen, I've worked up for a long time on this career path. I've done a lot of great things. I know everybody else may have a vision for what I should do, but I can't fault anybody for going after a big financial prize.
Yeah.
And if I had that opportunity when I was an athlete, like, I don't know, I might would do it too. I mean,
Yeah, it's big money. It's life-changing money.
yeah, there's a lot of money, but I think like it emphasizes a key point, which is it sure would be great if the best athletes in the world in our sport, had a little bit more financial opportunity. And I think they deserve that. I think it's possible in swimming to create that, but but it doesn't exist now. And you have to create the fandom too.
Right. Right.
And that also means that the swimming community needs to show up when there's cool stuff to go watch and see, buy tickets.
Right. Earlier, you were talking about when you were talking about going back and changing things about your swim career. Mm-hmm. You talked about what did you say? What was the word you said? Brand awareness or brand partnership. What did you say?
I'm not sure. Media something.
Media, like taking advantage and like promoting yourself. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Well, also the social media wasn't as big of a thing then, but what I meant was, I think there's ways that you can create value, for brands and for whatever you're trying to like create awareness for, by sharing your story. Sid and I were talking about this yesterday, by being vulnerable, by, recognizing that it's not just, your stats on your Wikipedia page that are the leading value that you bring to the world, but actually there's a lot more things that can add value for a brand partner, and then also, to create financial opportunity for yourself. But you need to be willing to put stuff out there, to be a little bit more open, to maybe overshare something that might be comfortable. And I think like that's hard for swimmers or just maybe other sport athletes in general. People don't like to share their goal times, or they like to keep things a little bit tighter to the chest. And I understand that, because if you say something out loud, then you're opening yourself up to the criticism if you fail or if you don't do it. And I think there's a lot to that if you put yourself out there, then you know that if you do fail in some way, shape, or form, that there will be some criticism. Or if you change your mind. People can't change their minds nowadays.
That's the craziest part.
Because if you say that you have an opinion about something, then years later, if you change your opinion, then they're like, well, you said before that you thought something different. You hated backstroke. And now...
You tweeted in 2009.
Now you love backstroke. And that's not right.
Right.
Like, what a ridiculous thing. We should be able to change our mind. But I think, anyway, the point is, like, I think that swimmers
need to take ownership and not just complain about they're not getting paid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So go fix it then. Where do you see other opportunity to go do it? You know, there's examples out there. So go do it.
I think the greatest example is like in the running space right now. I think you're probably aware of it because you're in the endurance space. Like there are runners out there who are not great runners. Like they're maybe doing a sub-3 marathon, and that's not good at all, like compared to elite levels.
Sure.
But these people, they're making a living off posting on social media, posting their journey. They're getting brand deals because they're posting their story, right? And that's the way you can make value for brands and get paid as a professional athlete. You can't just, even if you can be like a gold medalist and not make any content, and you would like get no deals.
Yep.
Right. And then you could be a 23.5 50 freestyler and make a ton of content about it, and you can make a living off of it. So it's not about, it's swimming, it's not fair at all. No, it's, you have to go out there and make the value for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, I think I've said this on the podcast a couple of times, but like, I'm sorry if you're a janitor, but like janitors work really hard, but they don't get paid a lot because there's not value in it. You have to go out and create the value.
Right.
Like I have this business mantra that I always use is, the market decides what's valuable, right? And you have to go create that value, and money flows to value. And so you can't just complain about, oh, these swimmers work so hard, but they don't get paid. But like, yeah, even if you work hard doesn't mean it's valuable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to go out there and make value for brands.
What do you think that means for college athletes then, with like
The NIL stuff?
and the opportunities maybe being lost because of lack of funds for athletic departments?
I think...
Let me ask it a different way. What do you think that... do you think that college athletes or coaching staffs have a responsibility to create that value so that they can monetize their operation? Or do you think it's a sunk cost that we should just accept because
I think it's up to
swimming's
the
an Olympic
individual.
sport?
Like you're going to have rich college kids who don't need to do that. It's like, if you want to do it, if you want to make it a career, then go and do that. Just don't complain about it when there's not money for
Right.
you. Like there's opportunity. You have, like, it's going to be a lot of work. Yes. It's not easy. Yes. But like, don't complain about not having money if you're not willing to create value, because money doesn't just appear just because you work hard. You have to do something that the market deemed as valuable, you know?
Right. And that may be disappointing to hear if you're already working fucking hard. You know?
Yeah, but like swimming a 21.8 or whatever in the 50 free, it's not that valuable.
No.
Even though that's crazy to say. Like, yeah, it's going to take a lot of hard work to do that, but it's not valuable.
No.
I'm sorry.
It's not.
But maybe the journey that you took to get to a 21.8 gets you the attention, which is valuable. Attention is valuable. I think attention is I think Gary Vee says is like the most valuable asset in the world right now is attention. If you can curate and gather attention by these metrics that social media companies use, then you can become valuable, you know? And that's the whole reason we kind of started this YouTube channel with Sid, is like, we're trying to curate attention, you know, showcase the journey of the athletes so that we can help the athletes train and live and whatnot. Because it's not financially, it's not easy. Like Calvin has to work a job. I wish he could quit his job, because I think those two things compete with each other. Like Calvin just went through this whole job transition. It was super stressful, and I could see that it's affecting his swimming. But I wish all he did was like swim, go home, eat, sleep, recover. And I wish that was his life, but unfortunately that's not reality. So he has to work, but we're working towards making it easier for him, you know?
Yeah. And I think that it's just about being open to a different mindset and accepting that it's, you know, all of the work that needs to be done isn't just what you're doing athletically.
Yeah.
But if that opens up an opportunity for you to continue to do the athletic pursuit, then maybe that's just what it takes. But yeah, I went through that too, where I was, focused full time on swimming. I had graduated. I didn't have anything going on. I was just swimming. And then I was like, well, I should get some money. And an opportunity came for me to actually work in the athletic department. I did that. But eventually, Olympic gold medalist Mark Gangloff, now coach at North Carolina, came to me, and he was training as a pro at that point. He saw me roll up to the pool deck one day. He goes, man, you just look tired. He's like, you just look drained. And I had worked in between sessions where the rest of the pros had, gone home and relaxed and recovered and come back ready to go for the next session. And I wasn't. And so the work was definitely negatively impacting, what I was doing at the pool. But, maybe there's a balance there where, there's a creative outlet and pursuit that you can do that's maybe less physically taxing, or maybe, it doesn't require a certain number of hours. I think there is a balance, and probably also a good career preparation for anybody else, any of the athletes who are willing to take on a different task, or, share their story. Then if they can do that, then it's maybe taking some of the pressure off of the athletic pursuit too, in the swimming. It gives them something else to think about and be creative about and try hard and fail and learn.
I think when your entire identity is just an athlete, then you tie the results to your identity, and so like if you don't swim fast and your only identity is athlete and you don't swim fast, then you feel like you're not worthy. You're not valuable to the society.
Right. But if you fail, there's value in that, because people relate to failure. Most of the people watching failed.
Right.
Think about that. Like, people listening to this podcast, probably most of them did not win Olympic gold medals or break world records.
Yeah, I never did.
Right. But like, and yet we're all curious about like, okay, those that did, but if I just knew about all the things that went into the story behind that pursuit of excellence, and then if you fail, I'm like, I'm bought in.
Yeah.
I'm invested in the story. So it's almost like training these athletes. It's not necessarily a good thing. I remember I had a teammate, George Bavell, who was not an advocate for having a backup plan after a big major meet. Like if you don't make the Olympics, what are you doing next?
He didn't want to burn the ships.
Yeah. However, so I think that though, if we're advocating that you share your story and there's value, whether you win or lose, or you succeed or fail, then is that creating like a backup plan where, well, it's not really going to matter. So there's less importance on the outcome. And then does that take that little bit of edge off? That's that edge that you need to be the best in the world. I don't know.
I think that depends on the person.
Yeah.
I think some people, you have to burn the ships and they do very well. And some people, you have to have the ships close by.
Yep. Agreed.
I think it really depends on, like, if you're a high pressure person or a low pressure person. There's actually a chart you can see. It's called the Yerkes-Dodson graph, I think. Like, some people need high arousal to perform at their best. Some people need medium arousal. Some people need low arousal. But I think you have to individualize your psychological approach to whatever that is for you. Talk to me about Social Kick. How did that start?
We started Social Kicks pre-pandemic as buddies who met through master swimming. So my coping mechanism for not making the Olympic team in 2012 was going to grad school, which I did at Tennessee. And then I moved to California for a job. And when I got there, this is the beauty of the swimming community is, there's so many important relationships that we form through the sport that, it continues to introduce us to new people along the way. And so that's what happened to me. I had a teammate who was in town visiting California. A friend of a friend said, "Hey, I'm in town. Like, come meet my buddy Luke and come to dinner with us," which I did. And then Luke connected me to the Masters swimming group. And now, that introduced us to Dr. John Mullen. And so, I do it with my two buddies, and we used to swim Masters in the same group together and go 3 times a week. And then we would end up at John's house to watch the live stream of NCAAs or World Championships or whatever meet was going on, because we're just fans. We just still like swimming, you know? I can't relate to the people that you mentioned earlier who can't smell chlorine.
Yeah.
I feel bad for those people, but I've always loved, I'm a better person when I'm in the water.
Same.
And nothing makes me feel more like me than when I swim. So I liked being around that, and we would, drink scotch and drink some beers and talk shit about swimming for a while. And next thing you know, we're like, we did that enough times ago, we should just turn a microphone on for one of these conversations. And then we did. We started doing it in person for several episodes, just talking about whatever was happening in swimming. And then kind of around COVID lockdowns that pivoted to a virtual format, that also coincided with us relocating from all being physically based to living in the same area.
Where were you guys at the time?
We were near San Jose, in California. And now Luke lives in New York, John lives in Seattle, and then I'm all still in the same area in California. So we do it virtually now, but that also opened us the opportunity to be able to have more guests on the show. And so it pivoted from more of a hangout style to hang out with guests. And really our focus is on ensuring that we tell the story of, all the different athletes, good or bad, and getting to know the people who, are part of the sport. And it makes, as you get connected to different people on the pool deck, you know what it's like to walk around on a pool deck and you say hey to half the people that are there. Well, that sure is fun when you're not on the coaching, in the coaching atmosphere or on the pool deck all the time, but you're just a fan of the sport. And then we get to watch Worlds, the Olympics, and we're like half the heat of most of these finals. I've talked to,
have been on your podcast,
all these athletes. And so it's fun to have shared a conversation with them to get to know a little bit behind the scenes of who are they when they're not wearing a cap and goggles. And also, the broadcast, despite their best efforts of any level of sophistication, even if it gets a whole lot better, they're not going to be able to tell the story of everybody in the heat. The focus is on lane 4, or if there's a teenager, or, there's some key story that they want to tell, but there's 6 or 7 other athletes who are in that heat who also have a really cool story to tell. And we like helping tell it.
Right. I think that's how we grow the sport. You have to tell the story of all these athletes. Because like if you knew the story of every single person and all 8 guys in that A final in the 50 freestyle or whatever event or woman, you would be really invested in the result compared to like you maybe know one of the guys, right? Oh, that guy looks hot or whatever, and then the time is irrelevant to you. But if you knew the story of like, oh, this guy broke his arm and this guy did this, like you'd be so much more invested and you want to know the outcome.
And we know that for a fact because it's happened in other sports.
But we don't do it as a sporting organization. We don't do it. I think people like us, we're starting to learn that and we're trying to push that out.
Yep.
But I think it's only a matter of time, hopefully, before the organizations also like pick that up.
I agree.
Do you guys have like a big goal and vision with Social Kick, or is it really just hobby?
It started as a hobby, and I think it will forever be our first purpose is enjoying a conversation with other people, with ourselves, amongst ourselves, and with other people. And so like the main charter is just get to know people and create a safe atmosphere where people leave and they off camera, they go, that was fun. That was a fun time. That if we can do anything, like that's our primary objective. That said, the bigger goal would be to create a community within swimming where, there's like a mix of fans and athletes, and we can help share some insights and create an extension of, those people who don't get to have these conversations to know what it's like to talk to Gretchen Walsh or, the elites in the sport or Michael Andrew and share about what was going on in his life to, make the decision that he made to change programs. To create a safe space where, people can come and just chat. We're not in the news business, but nor do we want to be. And I think it's taken a bit to find like, well, where's the right fit then? Because we want to go to meets. Sometimes we like going to meets, but I'm not there, to bump elbows with anybody and ask you, so what's your post-race reaction? I want to know, like, I want to sit down with you in this environment after the next day and go, like, let's talk in longer form and in depth about it. So, but at the end of the day, I think there is opportunity though for us to help give back to the sport too, not just in storytelling, but also eventually to, there's financial need within the sport. And I think, we aspire to be able to, create a conduit where, perhaps we can sponsor some athletes or, have a team, to help some of those that may not be on the short list of Team Speedo or, any other, brand who's invested in the sport. So
basically sponsor athletes.
Yeah. And then that's a concept that, we've tinkered with a bit, and I hope that there's more people who want to do that sort of thing because, we basically ended up in a place where we are out of a hobby that has transformed into, a bigger platform to be able to share. And sometimes we piss people off with the things that we do. But
what are people upset with you about?
Oh, we had some, sometimes if we talk about the enhanced games, then people we get a lot of negativity about that.
Oh, so people are going to hate this one then.
If we talk about, if we made a cartoon and that like Phelps Lochte American flag hating on the drama about the world championships and the team not performing as well. And we made a cartoon that I just thought was kind of funny to make fun of the whole situation, and
you guys got a lot of heat for that.
People got pissed about it. They like hopped in our DM. You wouldn't believe like some of the people that like slid into the DMs to, you guys should know better than this sort of thing. You shouldn't dip to that level. And I'm like, listen, you need to understand something. We're just fans.
Right.
Okay. Like and that's swimming needs that. Swimming needs like third party, objective, safe space to be able to say whatever you want about some of these athletes,
Right.
which is a bit of a conflict of interest for us sometimes because we do want to talk to the best athletes in the sport. And so we have to balance that of like how transparent can I actually be? Can I share my real opinion? And so, but without pissing too many people off. And I think that's just a balance for us to figure out is how to say what I think that, some of the best content that I listen to is, they're objective, non-affiliated people who are just saying what they think about what happened in the sport today. Oh, he false started, or, oh man, he totally ate it that last 15 meters, But if you say things that are a little bit more direct, then you might piss some people off who don't want to come and talk to you. And so we just have to be okay with like, am I saying it how it is? And that just is what it is. Right. Or am I filtering what I'm saying because of the greater, the longer term vision? And that's just tough.
It's balance. You have to balance that.
It's tough to balance.
And the hard part about that is there's no playbook. There's not like, oh, it's a 60-40 ratio of, saying how it is and keeping, being politically correct. You just have to like figure it out on the go because there's not an exact playbook on how to do this kind of thing, Yeah.
But as you guys, I'm sure, are finding out, it's fun to have a creative outlet too, where you can learn a new medium and explore what works, what doesn't work. How does it affect your mentality? What can you learn from it? One of the things that I like about being able to have a platform or to interview people really is that I like listening to podcasts and learning from people. And so when you're hosting one and guiding the conversation, it's like you're listening to it, but you just get to ask the questions too. You just get to shape where the conversation is going. Yeah. That's how I feel when I'm having it, is I'm listening to it and I'm having it at the same time.
Right. Yeah. That's where I went the 50 butterfly question. That was selfishly for me because I'm like, how do you do a 50 butterfly? This guy used to be the American record holder. Why wouldn't I ask him?
Yeah.
So I think I wrote that down, but yeah, that's me asking what I wanted to ask,
Great. I love that for you.
Anyways,
hopefully I was helpful. I don't think
you got to get to LAX soon. It's 4:03.
Yeah, we should wrap it soon.
We should wrap it up.
Yeah.
I feel like we could keep going longer if we wanted to, but
we can do other rounds of this too, by the way, and you should come on our show. But
let's do it.
This
and your girlfriend's mom lives right there.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, it's super close.
Yeah.
But no, it's super fun to get to chat about swimming.
Yeah, like I wouldn't have, sorry, no offense, but like I wouldn't have went to a coffee shop and talked to you for like 80 minutes or whatever. No. How long was that, Sid? Like I would have never done this unless it was a podcast, and I'm finding that this is actually a life hack to be able to have deep, in-depth conversations with people. So
yeah, that's because hopefully it's informative or entertaining for somebody else to be able to share. And I think that adds that additional purpose to it, that it's not just selfish. It's not just for you or for me, that there's hopefully other people that are interested to know, something they can learn from it.
Yeah. Can you leave us a question for our next guest?
I think in the spirit of where Calvin left one for me, and going back to change something, I think maybe how about this? Ask him like, I often think about mastery, and I reflect on the fact that, you've heard the 10,000 hours rule, and whether or not there's something else in my life that I will ever develop mastery in.
Oh, that's good.
The way that I did and have in swimming,
that's good.
And so I would like maybe to suggest for a future guest that you ask them about what's one thing in their life. Do they think there's another thing coming that they'll develop mastery in? And if so, what's on their short list to develop mastery in?
What if they already developed another thing?
Then that's okay too.
Ask
them if they have it. But is swimming or sport the solo single, thing that they've developed mastery in? And,
What
Is-
if what
do
if
they
we
think
don't
that's
have
it?
there's a chance that we don't have a swimmer on
Oh,
next? Then whatever their
focus
whatever
is.
their thing is, can they do it again, basically?
Have they developed mastery in something, and is that the final time that they'll develop mastery in something, or is there something else that they think will happen, or that they are hopeful that they can develop that level of mastery in?
Wow, that's a incredible question. Wow.
It's one that I don't know the answer for me.
Wait, I was just gonna ask you. Sorry, I know you have to go, but
No, you're okay. I don't know the answer for me, but I kind of I struggle with that, with the fact that I don't know, and with the question itself, because it can be sort of deflating on, you know, or you can channel it in a positive way to be motivating, to say, okay, yeah, that was one chapter of my life that is fun to talk about and fun to stay connected to. But, you know, I don't identify, I'll always identify as a swimmer to some degree, but also at the same time, like, that's not all of who I am. It's
Right.
not all of who any of us is or are. And you don't need to be defined by that one thing. So I think it's fun to think about, okay, well, but it is fun to know it at a level of detail that when you rock up on a pool deck with people that you haven't met before, that you can be in the moment with everybody, because we all have this shared mastery and love for the craft that we're all, I don't know, like, I'm not invested in any of your athletes, but it was fun to sit there and watch them and go, here's what I saw, or here's one nugget of expertise that I can bring to whether or not I took a breath in the 50 butterfly and you don't, and where I took mine and why. You know, like,
no one
gives a shit about that.
except us.
It
We'll talk
doesn't
about
matter ever in my life until I'm on the pool deck and that conversation.
It
Right.
matters.
So that's fun. And I think that having that in some other, you know, topics or subjects would be a fun way to live life.
Sorry, do you take a breath in your 50 fly?
I did.
Where?
At like 40.
You couldn't hold your breath for 10 more meters?
It didn't have to do with that. I took it because I felt that it kept my hips higher in the water.
Oh, the extra buoyancy from the air.
And that mattered to me more in fly with the high hips. And it's 2 seconds, a second and a half longer of a race.
Interesting. All right. Anyways, where can people find you?
At socialkickswim on Instagram, YouTube. And I don't do a personal social media. So
Oh, that's the only Instagram that you have?
just Social Kick.
Okay.
I don't do my own.
Do you have a website? Anything else we can plug?
We do, but, you know, we're really just check us out on Spotify or anywhere else that, you know, people listen to podcasts, and obviously social media, Instagram, TikTok. You know, we make fun videos and try to just shine a light on the sport, so people can find us there. And yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, and have a safe drive to wonderful LAX.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. Thanks. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. All right.
Appreciate
Bye,
it.
everyone.